Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Booth.
It's the preview show, and in this episode we're looking forward to the Carabao Cup, where United take on Stoke City for only the fifth time in our history. Can the Blues cause an upset and dump the Potters out in the first round?
With a pass so true to ball the stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run. The old one too.
Ah, Mike, long time no speak.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not feeling too great, to be honest. I've got this horrible rash. I've got a temperature. I think it's Carabao Cup fever.
Hey, there we go. Start them off early. Letting everyone in behind the curtain as usual. We're recording this about an hour after we recorded the review of the Gillingham game. So if there's any transfers happen on Monday, we apologies, I'm not going to be covering them because we wanted to get this out and done out of the way. Yes, so we're looking ahead to the cup tie. Quite an exciting one. Looking forward to this one. Just before we get started, a reminder, of course, we are sponsored by CUOSC this season. I'm going to have a proper advert done for this, by the way. But I was speaking with Dan about this. They're sorting out someone to do a little voiceover advert for us, so we'll be able to just drop that in to this bit. So you don't have me warbling and saying completely different things every single time. But yes, CUOSC is sponsoring this season. They're helping us out in terms of studio costs and a bit of equipment and things like that. So really appreciate that. If you want to find out more about CUOSC, go to their website, cuosc.org.uk. You can sign up there for the year. You get 10% discount in the club shop. You get priority on match tickets, and you get to have a voice in the club because they genuinely are, working with the Piatics to drive this club forward. So definitely get involved there. All good stuff. Again, a reminder, our Ko-fi is live. If you want to drop us a tip, buy us a pint, whatever you want to call it. Just something that'll help a little bit towards some of our other costs and that'd be really, really appreciated. It's at ko-fi.com. That's kofi.com/Brunton Bugle. And you can contact us on Twitter. At Brunton Bugle, we're the same on Instagram. Find us on Facebook. I need to actually update those pages, to be fair. And also, old-fashioned way, by email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Just drop us a message and we'll get back to you. EFL Fantasy League as well, just keep an eye on that. I think I did all right on the opening day. I think about mid-table-ish, I think I am, in the Brunton Bugle League. Don't know how you've got on. Did you have a look at yours?
I haven't had a look yet, but I do have John Mellish in my team, so that'll be some points, yeah. I
had John Mellish and Charlie White was in there, which didn't do me much good, obviously, but Alfie May was in too. And I think at least one other player scored for me, so not a bad start, to be fair, from what I can remember, so pretty happy with that. Right, let's get on to it. It's looking ahead to Stoke City in the Carabao Cup, the League Cup. It's had many names down the years. Milk Cup, Rumblow's Cup, Coca-Cola Cup, the Carling Cup, Worthington, the Capital One. It's had all the names, doesn't it? It's very many changes down the year. So, we'll be starting off with Behind Enemy Lines, where we speak to an opposition fan. I spoke to Mike, not you, Mike, another Mike, from the Every Step Along the Way podcast about all things Stoke City. Talked a little about their struggles in the Championship since relegation from the Premier League, how Stephen Schumacher's done as manager there since taking over late last year, and a few memories about Roy Delap as well and what he was like as a player at Stoke. Apologies, the audio might not be the greatest on this because Mike had to try and find somewhere quiet to do it, and I think he was outside, so there's a little bit of background noise going on in it, but you can make out what he's saying anyway, and he was a really good guy. Really appreciate him giving up his time. So here's the chat I had with Mike ahead of the game.
Hi, I'm John Halpin, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Yes, we're back for Behind Enemy Lines, the second one of the season, where we talk to an opposition fan ahead of the big game about the match and a bit about their club to find a bit more about them. And this is quite an important one because we don't play this team very often. In fact, we've only played them 4 times in our history prior to this game. It is Stoke City we're facing, and I'm speaking to Mike from the Every Step Along the Way podcast. Mike, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Not that great after the opening day defeat for us, but things can only get better from this point, I suppose. Let's talk about your club then. I mean, it's difficult because normally when we play with teams, it's other League Two clubs, and I can sort of get a grasp on how things are for them and that sort of thing. For you guys, it's a weird one because for years you were synonymous as this team that was really hard to play against in the Premier League. Since you've got relegated, it kind of feels like you've struggled to find your feet in the Championship and really sort of kick on to try and get yourselves back up there. You've been through quite a few managers in that time.
Yeah.
What's it been like over the last however many seasons? I can't remember when you got relegated now, but what's it been like since then, basically?
Yeah, you know what, you're right. It's been really tough. We've had a number of different changes behind the scenes. We've changed managers, like we've had bloody changing clothes. Honestly, it got a little bit silly at one point. I think you're right. I think we were a club that we looked at as the model Premier League club at one point. You go up, you spend well, you're hard working. The fans are looked after, like the whole thing. And I'd say that we're a long way away from that. I think it's gone wrong, to be honest, mate, because I think we've given managers too much control over the years. Gary Rowett comes in when we get relegated and we spend 60 odd million quid on a load of crap and never really recovered. Genuinely, it took us 5 seasons to recover because of the financial mess that those transfers put us in. And there's an element of, the owners are very trusting, which is great. They always back the managers, which is great. But the downside to that is I think you get the wrong manager in, you give them all the money that they possibly can, and then, we're having managers who have got players from 2 or 3 managers ago, a ruck of players that aren't even anything to do with the current manager. It never ends well, and it's not. You can't. It's like you can't just rip up contracts and move people on. So we've spent a lot of years recovering, and I'd say now we're finally in a place where we're debt free. We've still got the same owners with the same deep pockets, and it might finally, hopefully, start to turn around now.
Yeah, you've been through a few managers in that time, as we mentioned there. You've now settled on Stephen Schumacher, who is an ex-Blues player, actually. He had a brief loan spell with us. Didn't do a huge amount. We were pretty terrible back then, from what I remember. How is he doing? Because he obviously did a fantastic job at Plymouth to get them promoted from League One, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And I think he started quite well. I think when he came in, he only had like 20-odd games, I think it was, to save us. Because, let's be honest, at that time, we were heading straight for League One. We were dreadful. We couldn't play well. We couldn't score. The fans were hating every minute. It was a real toxic place, actually, under Alex Neil. And, you're right. He comes in. He started off by trying to, insert his style of play, which is very much, getting up in your face. And I think he very quickly learned that actually these players aren't capable of doing that. So to his credit, he said, right, okay, I'm going to play in the way that you're used to, that will get us grinding out results. And we managed to stay up. In the end, I think we had, top 4 form. But he's managed to come in there, and now, as we hopefully you'll see in the week, there's a very clear identity, something that we've really struggled with. So he's got players of his own, luckily now, which are coming in. He's a good personality. He's someone, I'll be honest with you, mate, has had to win me over. He's a very quiet personality for me. He's not the, going into an interview and, screaming passion. He's very composed, and kind of a bit different to the managers we've had. So it's been a bit difficult for me to get my head around that. But he's, I think he's just given everyone a little bit of belief back. And with the right players, I think, as I say, early days, but I think we're in a really good position this season.
Were you happy with your summer transfer activity? I just have a look there at some of the players you brought in. Not a huge amount of change in there, but just some sort of smart-looking additions in key areas.
Yeah, 100%. I think when we come into this window, we had 3 kind of key areas we had to work on quickly. One was a goalkeeper, because we had Mark Travers from Bournemouth, and he was great for us, but then they recalled him from some loophole in the rules, left us with very little. We managed to get another keeper in, did a good job, but we needed a proper number 1, a commanding number 1. Johansson is showing every bit of that since he's joined, so that was great. We've struggled for a left-sided centre-back. We've had right footers playing there constantly, so we finally got Ben Gibson in there for that position, which is brilliant. And then we haven't had a left back for, well, pretty much all season last year. We've got Ender Stevens, who's been injured. So we actually played an entire season with a right backs or left wingers covering in on that side. And now Eric Bocat, which will, for me, could be the steal of the season at $1.5 million. He's got pace, he can defend. He's exactly what we're looking for. So the first 3 signings, you've gone and plugged the gaps that you needed to plug straight away. And now, there's talks about Jay Stansfield this morning. There's been rumoured there's somebody we want to bring in. We're still bringing in another 5 or 6 players and a couple of Liverpool players and stuff like that. So I think it's starting to take shape. We're going to have to get some people at the door soon because we're going to be very, very heavy on midfielders especially.
Yeah, you mentioned goalkeepers there. Got to ask you about Jack Bonham, who's one of your backup goalkeepers. So he's actually ex-Carlisle as well. He had a loan spell for a season with us, and he started out a bit shakily, but actually was probably one of our better players that season. Is he not quite settled in, really?
Well, Jack's a weird one. You either love him or you hate him, I'm going to be honest. The thing with Jack, he doesn't command his box enough. Well, for me, he's a good shot stopper, but beyond that, he didn't really offer very much. Now, it hasn't been confirmed by the club. You won't see Jack Bonham in the week. I think from what we were told a couple of days ago, we believe he's broke his wrist, but there's absolutely unconfirmed. We haven't got any official word from the club. It was just something that we were told. So if that's the case, then obviously you certainly won't see him. But so Jack's, look, he's a solid keeper. He's a solid number 2. He's not somebody you want as your number 1 in the Championship, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that does kind of make sense. I think he did a pretty good job in League One, didn't he, for Bristol Rovers and the like, and just hasn't quite been able to step up, I guess. You started the season yesterday, got a 1-0 win, didn't you? You're pretty happy with how you played?
Yeah, very happy. I think Coventry are a good team, and I know we beat them, but you will see them in there in that top 10, top 6 reckoning, I think, without a doubt, once they start to click. But yeah, I think first 45 minutes, we absolutely dominated the game. We should have been at least 1-0 up. Didn't give Coventry any time to settle whatsoever. So a really good start to that. Some good play, good movement, the whole shebang. Second half was a very scrappy game. I think you can say that both sides really did nothing in the second half. We had a bit of a good movement for our goal. And, we actually took the chance because I think normally with Stoke, you have one good half, you come out for the second, and that's where you mess it up and go and lose the game. So it was nice for us not to actually do that for a change. Yeah.
In terms of your squad overall, who are the danger men for us to look out for? I mean, Lewis Baker obviously scored the goal yesterday. A man who's had many, more clubs than Jack Nicklaus, as the joke goes. Who are the standout men for us to keep an eye out for?
There could be a couple. The problem we've got is we've got a load of injuries at the minute. We almost didn't start. Well, we had to start with an 18-year-old striker yesterday because we haven't got any strikers fit. So I would probably say if he plays, Million Manhoof, who plays like the right-hand side of the front 3, he's definitely someone to look out for. He's tricky. He can score. He's great vision. If you ever watch Xherdan Shaqiri, Shaqiri is basically a copy of that for me. I think he's going to be an exceptional player. So he's someone to look out for. And trying to think of the players that may play against you. Andre Vidigal potentially on the left-hand side, who had a knock. Actually, Lewis Baker injured him in the pre-season. So he might be back, and again, he's a good finisher of the ball. I think he scored a few goals in pre-season. So there's definitely some attacking flair to look out for. I think our defence will be kept pretty much the same as Coventry, if I'm honest. We haven't quite got that luxury yet to start maybe a couple of youngsters, but we're not going to do that. So I don't think you're going to see much in the way of changes actually going into Tuesday. Okay. So yeah, it's very difficult to call with these injuries, I'm going to be honest.
To be honest, we've basically got an 18 at the moment, so what you'll see is what you'll get from us, sadly. Yes, I was going to ask you whether you'd see changes, but obviously you've answered that one for me. What are your overall hopes and expectations for this season?
Well, we've seemed to love staying in the bottom 14th to 17th range for the last 5 or 6 seasons, so anything above that would be good, I suppose. But I think the players that we've got in the building, the players that we're on about getting in the building, it's exciting for once. I think probably for one of the first times in many years now. So I'm going to go for a very lofty 9th position. I think that would be a very good season for us. But the Championship, if you get to December-January period, and you're within 2 or 3 wins of those playoffs, anything's possible in the Championship. So who knows? We could be an amazing season, or we'll be back to typical Stoke in 16th place. We'll soon see.
You never know, do you?
No.
We've got to talk about the cup game itself, obviously. It's your first trip to Brunton Park since the mid-1980s, I think, like the old second division it would have been. And actually, it's only the 5th time we faced each other. So for a lot of your fans, I'd imagine the majority of them, it's a completely new ground. Is it when the draw came out, was it one that everyone thought, oh, that's interesting, that's a new one for us? Because actually, I would have liked it to be in the other way around, because we've only been to your ground once, and that was for the playoff final in the National League back in the day.
Well, I have to go back a bit. I think, there was a large element of it's a new stadium for a lot of people. I think a lot of people love to tick off stadiums. I've seen some people with some really, really interactive maps of all the stadiums I've been to. Quite impressive, really. But you know what? I always like to be absolutely respectful. I don't think it's a team we want to play. If I'm honest, I think we probably would have wanted definitely you at home, without a shadow of a doubt, or even to be honest, a worse team than you guys. You still, I know you said you've had a bad result of the day, but I think everyone wants a really easy tie to go through, and I just think the old Stoke City don't make these cup ties very easy. You look at Stoke Championship and Carlisle or whoever in League One or League Two games, and you think, that's an easy one. We don't do anything easy at this club, so I don't for a second think we're going to turn up and beat you 3-4-0. I mean, I hope we do, but I don't think that we don't do things easily. So it should be interesting.
I mean, based on the way we started the game yesterday, we have a habit of gifting goals early on, so don't be surprised if you do get a few. I'm going to wrap things up in a sec, but just got to ask you about Rory Delap, obviously someone who probably the strongest connection between the two clubs, other than maybe someone like John Rudge, possibly. Rory Delap, obviously still quite a big hero for you guys. He was our youngest ever player for quite a long while. Still someone who is very fondly remembered, I guess, at your ground.
Yeah, he's 100%. Rory's very, very well respected at Stoke, as you'd imagine. I think it's down to him that we were. Yes, there was of course other players that contributed, but he was a big reason that we got into the Premier League and stayed in the Premier League for me. So, I think it's always good to see Rory. I think I still don't know why other teams don't make the most of these long throws. I remember Arsene Wenger trying to get rid of the long throw and turn it into a kick in at one point when we were tormenting him every season. But Rory's a cracking bloke, and if he can spot anyone in our youth ranks with a long throw, bring it on.
Yeah, it's a weird one with Rory, because he started out as a striker for us. He was a striker, and then he got moved to be a right wing back, and obviously he ended up playing in midfield for you guys. So he played all over the pitch, really. But there you go.
He was a very underrated player, though, wasn't he? I think everyone looked at him as his long throw, and it was like he was much more than just a long throw merchant. Like, he was such a battler in that midfield. He scored a couple of goals. He was actually. It's great that he had the throw, but also, unfortunately for him, that's what he's going to be remembered for, not actually his overall game. Yeah,
well, it's nice to be remembered for something, though, isn't it? I guess in that sense.
Oh, God,
There you go. Mike, you've been very generous for your time. Thank you very much. Before we wrap things up, can you give me a prediction for the game?
I'm going to go 3-1 to Stoke, obviously.
I think that's probably quite a fair assessment, to be fair. But I think we're hoping for maybe a draw and penalties. Maybe it might help us. But you never know.
Not us on penalties, please.
Well, you never know. Mike, thanks very much for giving me time. And I normally have a caveat here, but it doesn't actually matter off this weekend's game, because we won't play you unless we play you in the Cup again. So all the best for the rest of the season after this midweek game.
And you. Cheers, Lee. Thank you.
Hi, it's Tom Piatic II, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Yes, we're back for part 2 of the preview episode of the Brunton Bugle, looking ahead to the midweek Carabao Cup clash against Stoke City at Brunton Park. Should note it's a 7:30pm kickoff. That might catch a few people out. That a bit surprised when I saw that. So it's a little bit early kickoff than normal. 7:30pm. So make sure you're there prompt at Brunton Park. I'm going to be driving up for this one. It's also live on Sky Sports Plus. So if you're a Sky Sports Plus subscriber, you can find it on there. I think you can get like a Now TV pass as well. I think.
Yeah, you can get like a day pass. I think it's about £10 for a day pass, or it's like 30 odd quid for the month.
I think it might. Yeah, I think it might be 10. It's 30 quid a month. With that, you would also, if you're an XL, you get the Barrow game as well. So that's something worth remembering. Yes. Stoke City. What are we thinking from this one, Mike? What are we expecting? Because it's a weird one to judge because you can never tell these championship sides whether they're going to make big changes or not. Quite sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Even if they do make changes, you know they're going to be real quality players coming in. How do you assess this one?
It's hard, isn't it? But either way, we can't really lose. In that, if we do lose the match, no one expects us to win, and if we win, then that's wonderful. So yeah.
pretty straightforward in that sense, isn't it? Really. The Potters. You had a little bit of look at their squad before we recorded, just to get some ideas and looked at some of their transfer activity. They haven't done too much in the summer. Mike from the Stoke pod did mention that they've still got about 3 or 4 more probably to come in, and I think Championship clubs do tend to spread their transfers out a bit more than maybe League One and League Two clubs. They're still going very much. They're waiting for Premier League clubs to do their business, aren't they? Quite often. To pick a few players off from them. But actually, I look at the signings they made. There's some quite smart signings. Sam Gallagher's a decent striker from Blackburn. It sounds like that Eric Jr. Bocat has settled in really well from Belgium, £1.2 million signing. And Victor Hansen's the one that stands out from Rotherham because he was really highly rated, wasn't he, I think, in the Championship last season for them. So I think that's a real steal for them at £1 million. And Ben Gibson's got bags of experience at that level. So, and obviously, Lewis Kumas coming in on loan from Liverpool. We know, his dad was a pretty good player and he's a pretty decent player himself. So he should do well for them. Who really stood out for you when you looked at their squad?
Well, personal aside, I mean, just seeing the transfer fees that they're spending this summer, $1 million, 1.2, 1.8 million, it's just a completely different world, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, it's not as if they're still living off the Premier League parachute payments either.
They're relatively small fry for a Championship club as well. Those fees, you think about it, and yet for us, it looks a million miles away.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, they've got a very good squad. I think Jack Bonham's their number 1 now, is he?
No. So he's likely to miss the game. There's a rumour that he's apparently fractured his wrist. So he's probably not going to feature. I think Victor Hansen is coming in. I think he is going to be their number 1. But I mean, like I said, if you look at the goalkeepers, and Bonham's a pretty decent keeper at League 1 and League 2 level. Frank Fielding's a very good goalkeeper. And then obviously Hansen. So they've got some decent players in there, haven't they? Yeah,
definitely. And Lewis Baker, I think, who's their captain, I think he was well thought of at Man City a few years ago. Chelsea, that's the one.
He is one of the players who's had about 1 million different clubs. I think he spent about 3 seasons, I think, at Vitesse, in Holland, if I remember right. I'm just looking here. No, in fact, he only spent 2 seasons in Vitesse, 64 games, 15 goals for them. He's had loans at Sheffield Wednesday, Milton Keynes Dons, Vitesse, Middlesbrough, Leeds United, Reading, Fortuna Düsseldorf and Trabzonspor. So, he's been about the place, but he's actually spent the last 2 seasons at Stoke, 86 games, 18 goals. So he's a goal-scoring midfielder. He's 29 now, so he's getting on a bit. He only left Stoke 2 years ago at 27, which is insane, really, isn't it? Players spent so long at that club, going out on loan. But yeah, he's certainly one to look out for, presuming he plays. Maybe they might rest him for this one, you don't know.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict exactly who will be playing. They'll definitely rest a few, but I think we probably will as well.
Yeah, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? But yeah, I mean, when you look through the squad, you mentioned Baker. Anyone else stand out for you?
Ben Gibson. He's a good defender. I mean, forwards. I mean, here they've listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 forwards. But I guess it's the 4-3-3 thing where it's like wide forwards and that. Yeah. But I think as well one of those clubs where the under-21 setup is almost a different entity to the first team. Yeah. So there's probably some players that we haven't got listed who could feature because they're part of the under-21 setup.
Yeah, you probably expect that. I mean, they had to play that Emre Tezgel, the young Turkish striker. He's only 18. He actually had to play on the opening day because they were so short of players. So, that shows you, the fact that they've had to change things up a little bit there. He looks a pretty decent player by all accounts, and that is where they may be a little bit short. They've got some incredible names in here, haven't they? I mean, you look at them. I mean, sometimes I think that they're just mashing a keyboard. When you look at them, you're like... they're brilliantly named Million Manhurth, I think is his name, isn't it? That's a terrific name. That I don't know a huge amount about them. That's the problem. There's a lot of unknowns in for us there. There's some very well-known players, but some very unknowns.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're sort of used to players who have been on the League One, League Two circuit. A lot of these players are on the Premier League Championship circuit. But I say Premier League,
or even Europe.
But that sort of lower end of the Premier League, where they're not as sort of household names. But yeah, I mean, there's players who have played hundreds of games at Championship level who, I mean, frankly, they'd walk. Any of them would be our best player, to be quite honest. Yeah,
that's the the realistic way we've got to look at things. I remember Lyndon Gooch playing against us for, I think he might have even scored against us for Sunderland, didn't he, in that cup game, if I remember right, like a few years back in the League Cup.
Oh, I'm not sure.
It rings a bell, but yeah, it's it looks a bit of a daunting task. It's probably about one of the toughest games we could have got, albeit we've got it at home. So that, I suppose, is the bonus you can look at with that. I'm just looking here. Yeah, Lyndon Gooch, I'll just double check there. He scored the second goal for them. It was a 2-1 win in Curl's last season. If it was Curl's last season in charge, maybe under... Yeah, it was Curl's last season in charge, basically. So yeah, there you go. Stephen Schumacher's their manager. Someone who briefly played for us. They're probably just towards the start of your time following us, Mike, I think.
Yeah, I think it's less than 10 games though we played, wasn't it? I think
on loan from Everton, yes.
Yeah.
He obviously was back up to Ryan Lowe. He was the assistant there, and Ryan Lowe at Plymouth, and Ryan Lowe left to go to Preston, and he finished off the job and got them promoted to the Championship, and was doing quite a good job, I think, of settling them there. And then Stoke come along, and Stoke, realistically, finances wise, is a step up from Plymouth, isn't it?
Well, I think location-wise as well, because he's from Liverpool. You know, Plymouth and Stoke. It's
funny because I funny enough, I live in Liverpool, and I saw Ryan Lowe a couple of times waiting to get the train from Liverpool, and I thought, God, that is a journey and a half. That because you've got to get to Birmingham and then get on the cross country, which takes forever. To get down to Plymouth from there. So yeah, fair play to them doing that. But yeah, he seems to have done a fairly decent job there, and he seems to have settled in quite a bit after a tough start. But when you look at it, they've had it real tough, haven't they, since they come down from the Championship, when you look at the finishes they've had.
Yeah, definitely. I think 19th last season.
17th. So 17th, basically, 16th, 15th, 14th, 14th, 16th, 17th.
Yeah.
They basically finished in those four places over the last... I mean, they've actually been in the Championship for 7 seasons now. You kind of forget that, don't you?
Yeah. Well, they were relatively, a part of the Premier League furniture for 11 a few years under
seasons.
Tony Pulis. Yeah,
11 seasons they spent in the Premier League, which is quite something, really, when you actually look back at it. And they became, as Mike from the Stoke Pod said, they almost became like a shining example to other clubs of how you can get yourself up and stay in the Premier League, weren't they?
Definitely. It sounds bad, but when they were in the Premier League, people moan about long ball football. They were very good at it, and they were very effective with it. And people will say, "Oh, I don't want to see us play long ball." If you're good at it and you're effective at it and score goals,
that
good on you.
That is the challenge you face when you're a club like them, though, isn't it? You get yourself promoted, dominating a division in the Championship, getting yourselves up. And then you play your same style. You stick to your style. You know what you can do, and it's so effective in keeping you up. But it gets to a point where if you're consistently finishing mid-table, at some point the fans are like, I need a bit more from this. I don't want to watch this every week. I want to see better football. Crystal Palace have had that challenge, haven't they? I think they've tried to move away from being more direct to being a more flowing football team, and they're only just about getting there. I think it's a real risk, isn't it? I think that's what Stoke tried to do. Then obviously Pulis left. Mark Hughes tried to make it a little bit more exciting. It didn't really work. They tried the same in the Championship. It sort of flipped between managers who could get them playing a better style and managers who can play that very effective football, like your Gary Rowett's in that sense. But they've just not been able to quite do it, have they? And I think that has been a real challenge to get over for them. Yeah,
definitely. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see sort of how they want to go about it against us. I mean, Schumacher at Plymouth had them playing some decent stuff. So you would imagine Championship club against a League Two club, they are going to want to try and dominate the ball against us and play some possession football.
I'm just looking here. Their team that played. They won their last game 1-0 against Coventry City. Lewis Baker got a goal in 78 minutes. Coventry dominated possession in this one. There wasn't many shots in the game. There were only 4 shots each, of which Stoke had 2 on target and Coventry only had 1. So it was a very tight game that they sort of nicked. When I'm looking at the team, it's a strong start 11, but actually when you look at the bench, they've got what looks like 2 youngsters as their defensive options on there, haven't they? All the rest are midfielders and attackers. Baker actually came off the bench in the match. But yeah, when you look at the bench, there's a lot of young lads on there, and you wonder if maybe the chances of them changing things up are not massive for this game.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely look to rotate. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, if they're making the bench in the Championship, either they're desperately short on players or they fancy these lads a little bit.
I think they've probably got a few injury issues, possibly in defence, as we mentioned there. So yeah, we're expecting a tough game to their first visit in. Let's go through some of the stats before we talk about United here. So, in terms of referee, it's Ben Toner from Lancashire, 10th season as an EFL referee. I mean, his stats for last season, 164 yellows and 2 red cards in 34 games. So just over 4 yellow cards a game. In fact, just over 5, actually.
Yeah,
around about 5 yellow cards a game, which is quite a lot over the season.
But yet so few reds.
Yeah, not many reds. No, it's quite a surprise. Took charge of Mansfield's impressive 2-1 win at Barnsley on the opening day of the season. I think we had about 4 or 5 yellows in that one. And last United game he took charge of was the final game of last season, the 2-0 loss at Derby County.
He owes us 2 minutes.
He does, the cheeky swine. How dare he end that game, really. Harrison Neal was the only player booked that day. I don't remember any particularly dodgy incidents, but it was a pretty straightforward game for Derby County, that, wasn't it? Head-to-head wise, as we mentioned, it's the 5th meeting between the two sides. United have won 1. There's been 1 draw, and the Potters have won 2. First time we've faced them in a competitive fixture in 38 years. Last visit to Brunton Park, they lost 3-0 with a brace from Alan Mays. He's only 2 league goals for us. And a goal from Mick Halsell. This is the thing that blows my mind. Bear in mind, this was an old second division game, so what is the equivalent of the Championship now? The attendance that day, 2,813.
Oof.
And when you look through the stats from that season, I was looking through, we played Norwich, it was a similar crowd. A lot of small crowds that season, which probably shows you what state football was in back then in the mid-80s, doesn't it?
I think the economy in general wasn't in a good state, was it?
No. We won't get political here, but no, you're 100% right. But yeah, so there's some of your stats. Let's talk about United then. Injury-wise, obviously we now know that Cameron Harper's out for a month, which is better news, I think, than the initial rumours were suggesting. So that's okay-ish. Not so good news for Taylor Chartered. He's out now for 10 weeks, which puts him alongside Ethan Robson, I think, who's out for 10 weeks round about now.
It's left-footed players, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Jack Robinson. Jack Robinson's out for a month. In a similar situation. Then you obviously McGeoch's out for a month. So we've got like Dudek similar. We've got about 3 or 4 players coming back in about a month's time, with Callum Guy not far behind maybe as well. Maybe more like 6 weeks for him possibly. So we've got options coming back. It's just frustrating to have them all out at the start of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And the start of the season can really sort of set the tempo for the rest of the season. Yeah. You know, if we're if by the time these players come back we're languishing at the sort of bottom end, we're going to have teams coming at us a little bit more than if we're not.
Yeah, no, that's the worry, isn't it? Formation and team selection. I mean, 3-5-2 is going to be the formation. I think we pretty much know that. Team selection wise, what do you do for this one? Do you make changes? For me, I think Kelly and Armstrong start over Wyke and Daniel Aduajay, just to freshen things up a little bit and give them a little bit of a rest.
Yeah, definitely. And as well, you know, Wyke and Aduajay didn't score against Gillingham. You know, if Armstrong or Kelly can get a goal or 2, it maybe forces Simo's hand a little bit to give them a go against Barrow, even.
Do you make any other changes?
Breeze and nets, 100%. and it's hard. I mean, I might even be inclined to play Lavelle, it's hard. I mean, I might even be inclined to play Lavelle. Because Hayden's previous injury record, I want to be quite careful with him.
Yeah.
Maybe Jack Ellis in on the right. I think largely the rest of the team. Midfield almost picks itself. Unfortunately, with the current injuries we've got. So yeah,
it's all depending on whether we get a new signing in tomorrow. We're recording this on Sunday, so if they can get a signing in on Monday, then yeah, possibly they come in as a replacement. But I don't think I'd put Butterworth in. I think I'd keep things in midfield pretty much the same. I don't think you can afford to be a bit more forward thinking in that midfield against a Championship club. I'd stick with the current three in there. I would put Breeze in. If I was Simo, I would make a point in the pre-match thing saying Gabe Breeze is going to play in this game. That's not an indication of anything Harry Lewis has done. It's just I want to give him game time. That's simply what it is. That would be what I'd do there. And yeah, I'd probably look to put the two strikers in just to change it up and see how it goes. And maybe on the bench, I'd maybe freshen up and maybe put a couple more of the young lads on there. In fact, do we get 9 subs this one, if I remember rightly? I feel like we do, don't we?
Yeah. Or is that the FA Cup?
Might be the FA Cup, you might be right there. Actually. But if we got the 9 subs, stick a couple of the young lads on there. If he's fit. I think Freddie O'Donoghue might be injured because he missed the youth team's game against Rotherham at the weekend. But maybe involve a couple of the younger lads, possibly. I don't know, but yeah, we will see. Predictions time. So, how did we all get on the first weekend, Mike?
Well, we all got 0 points, which currently means that Adam is top on alphabetical order, and I'm bottom on alphabetical order.
Some things never change, eh?
I know. So yeah, hopefully get some points on the board this Tuesday night.
Well, go on then, Mike. You go first. What are you thinking for this one?
I'm going to say a 2-2 draw, and we'll take it to penalties. And I'm going to say Big John's going to score, and Thomas will score as well.
Okay, you're going for 2-2. You know what? I'm going to go for 2-2 as well. I think it's going to be entertaining. 2-2 draw. And I think goals from Luke Armstrong and Ben Williams is going to score a free kick, I think. I think we're going to have a free kick somewhere and Ben Williams is going to put it in the top corner because he looks like he's got a good set piece in him. So Ben Williams free kick. So I'm going to go for 2-2 as well. Right, I've just been sent over the predictions. I timed that well, haven't I, really? From Adam and Dan. I had to scramble there because I'd forgotten to actually ask them for them. So we'll do Dan's prediction first.
Really tricky to predict for the League Cup because obviously you often get a lot of team changes from both teams. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw and a penalty shootout defeat. Goals from Armstrong and Terrell Thomas.
Not much variety in our choices so far.
No.
When you look at it. Let's see if Adam can complete the set.
From the streets of Soho, I'm going to go with a shithouse 1-1 with a goal from Georgie Kelly, and we'll win on penalties. Up the Blues.
Well, yeah, nice and straightforward there from Adam, because Adam's prediction was quite a lengthy one, wasn't it, in the preview. It was good, though. It was a good assessment of the game. He's obviously down in London still after the Gillingham game yesterday.
Drowning his sorrows.
Yeah, as you should do. But yeah, 1-1 draw. Okay, so we've all gone for a draw. I think that's a fair assessment. I think if we're going to try and be positive, that's probably about as good as we're going to get, realistically. Hopefully we can do something. That's the real hope, isn't it? No exploits or anything to cover, obviously, because we've done that in the review episode. So that's it. Nice and tight preview episode there, Mike. Thank you very much for joining me again.
Cheers.
And give it up your Sunday. Thank you to our sponsors, CUOSC, for their help. Again, really, really appreciate that. In terms of upcoming episodes, we've obviously got the review of the Stoke game. I'm not sure how we'll fit that one in. We'll have to have a look. Then we've got a preview of the big Cumbrian derby, the A595 derby, whatever you want to call it, derby, against the Ship Sinkers at the weekend. So that's quite an exciting one to look forward to. And we'll have a review of the Barrow game coming next week as well. So there you go. Mike, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening. And up the Blues.
Up the Blues.